Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tonight, firefighters are making progress slowing major wildfires in Los Angeles as officials begin to calculate the toll. Around 180,000 people are under evacuation orders after fires leveled entire neighborhoods and still threaten others. We're getting a look at the scope of the destruction in these satellite images, and they show what it looked like before and after the Palisades and Eaton fires tore through communities, burning thousands of homes and businesses. AccuWeather is estimating the economic toll at up to $150 billion. Lee Waldman reports from Pacific Palisades.
Today, we expect winds to subside somewhat, which will allow fire crews to increase containment lines.
Los Angeles County officials celebrating any break in the high winds Thursday.
Air operations are continuing rapidly in the Palisades, in Sylmar, and across our region.
Aerial water drops since last night gave fire crews an edge over a few of the smaller wildfires.
Woodley fire, the size 30 acres. Containment, fully contained. Next, the Sunset fire, which is in the Runyon Canyon area. Forward progress. The crews are working to put out spot fires within the perimeters.
Another blaze, the Lydia fire, reported around 40% contained as of midday. But the battle remains daunting and dangerous on other fire fronts.
It is safe to say that the Palisades fire is one of the most destructive natural disasters in the history of Los Angeles.
The Palisades and Eaton fires, the two largest, still burning. Nearly 180,000 people in the fire zones forced to evacuate. Tens of thousands of acres destroyed so far and climbing. And the death toll is expected to rise as burned areas are searched. Additionally, thousands of people left with virtually nothing.
Now that we have the presidential disaster declaration, we will have people going into the communities. We'll start in the shelters because that's where we know people will be.
We're throwing everything at this that we possibly can. We're going to move through this and continue to support one another.
In Pacific Palisades, Lee Waldman, KPBS News.
The San Diego Humane Society is stepping up to help adoptable animals displaced by the LA County wildfires. Coming up, how they're making room in their already crowded shelters. And as fires in Los Angeles County continue to burn out of control, San Diego County fire agencies are on high alert. KPBS reporter Melissa May gives us an update on how they are preparing for fire emergencies.
A red flag warning continues in San Diego County through Friday night. Santa Ana winds are predicted to increase and low humidity continue.
And with that brings high fire danger. And the reason why it's so high, higher than usual, here we are in January, is we are at our driest start to any water year.
Meteorologist Alex Tardy says the Santa Ana winds blow from several deserts like the Great Basin and the Mojave Desert to the ocean.
They can't go through the mountains, so they go up, over, around, in between. So what that means is your interstate corridors, like Interstate 8, will see the worst of the winds. And when we talk about the worst of the winds, we're talking 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts on I-8. And some of our most windiest areas off of Mount Laguna could even approach 80 miles per hour.
All of those factors kind of create a recipe for disaster in the event that there is a fire starting.
San Diego County CAL FIRE Captain Robert Johnson says they have increased firefighter staffing in response to the conditions.
Currently, firefighters' days off are canceled. So this allows us additional personnel that we may not have normally had due to those personnel being off duty on normal days off. We're able to use those personnel to staff additional fire equipment, including fire engines, firefighter hand crews, fire investigator positions.
Johnson recommends having a go bag packed and ready.
Some good items to have in there is water and food for a minimum of 3 days, a cell phone charger, any medications, and any important documents.
Also, make sure your electric car has a full charge. Gas-powered cars have a full tank of gas, and establish meeting points with loved ones.
In the event that your cell phone is not working or you're unable to use that map on your cell phone, you can still get yourself to a safe area to meet up with your friends and family.
Johnson says residents should be maintaining the defensible space around your home year-round, but not now.
On a day like today, with the lower relative humidities, the increased winds, with the red flag conditions, this is not a day where you should be out there clearing your brush, because use of equipment as well as any equipment use, including lawnmowers, weed trimmers, have the potential to ignite a fire.
He says be vigilant if you see a brush fire.
We ask people to call 911 immediately, and then try and give your best location and give a description of what the fire is, what it's burning, what direction it's traveling, and if anyone's life is immediately in danger.
The National Weather Service predicts Santa Ana winds will return next Monday through Wednesday. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And power has been restored for thousands of SDG&E customers today, at least for now. Power was shut off for nearly 9,000 customers due to dangerous weather conditions caused by strong Santa Ana winds. A red flag warning is still in effect through 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. Even though the power is on, SDG&E warns that more shutoffs could start tonight.
Well, tonight dropping down to 49 degrees, mostly clear skies, really clear skies, kind of a copy and paste from last night. It's during the day that we're going to start to see some differences, especially with the wind. I'll break all of that down coming up.
The final farewell for President Jimmy Carter. His formal state funeral was held in Washington, D.C. earlier today. Ivan Rodriguez is in Plains, Georgia, where the former president was laid to rest.
A national day of mourning to honor and celebrate the life of former President Jimmy Carter.
My grandfather spent the entire time I've known him helping those in need.
The National Cathedral in Washington filled with his family, friends, and fellow leaders, including all 5 living presidents, to say their final goodbyes.
Jimmy Carter's friendship taught me, and through his life taught me, the strength of character is more than title or the power we hold.
Thursday's state funeral wrapping up 6 days of services to remember the 39th president, including ceremonies at Joint Base Andrews, the U.S. Navy Memorial, and then lying in state in the U.S. Capitol, where mourners paid their respects. Carter is remembered for his remarkable service, a passionate humanitarian and a pioneer of human rights.
Abroad, Jimmy Carter laid the building blocks for a better world.
In 2002, Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, while he gained international attention for his decades of work to establish peaceful solutions to conflicts. He came from humble beginnings, starting out as a peanut farmer in Plains, Georgia.
They were small-town people who never forgot who they were and where they were from.
Carter's hometown of Plains held a special place in his heart. It will also be his final resting place, next to his beloved wife of 77 years and former First Lady Rosalind Carter. In Plains, Georgia, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Volunteer, when used as a verb, dictionary.com describes it as someone who offers themselves for some service or undertaking. But in the case of one young volunteer, that description falls flat. KPBS reporter John Carroll shows us how this volunteer's offering brings joy and peace to a couple navigating a difficult time.
Hey, hello. How's it going, guys? Hi.
Once a week, Arthur Wang comes to spend a few hours with Barbara and Jeff Sicking.
You want to take a seat on the couch?
Yeah, that's a good idea. This is much more than a social call for the Torrey Pines High School junior. Wang is here to bring the gift of comfort and companionship to the Sickings.
These programs can help relieve burden for like caretakers and other people that need to spend, many, many hours taking care of people like this.
The caretaker in this case is Barbara, who at the age of 83 now cares for her 81-year-old husband who has Alzheimer's. Barbara doesn't call it a burden, more a labor of love. But caring for someone in cognitive decline is a full-time job, and that's where Arthur comes in. He has a very personal connection to Alzheimer's that began long ago. He and his family would travel every year to visit his grandmother in China, but one year he started noticing changes.
She kind of like forgot me and like my other family members. It seemed like she could not recall anyone, really anymore about like who we are and like the connections we had.
That set off a process of discovery. He went online and learned all he could about Alzheimer's, what causes it, what can be done about it.
And that's when I discovered Alzheimer's San Diego, and they specialize in having these activities that advocate, share about what Alzheimer's is and how to deal with Alzheimer's. And I first got interested in their youth ambassador program because I wanted to see, what is it like to take care of people who have like early forms of dementia or Alzheimer's, and what is it like to do that?
So we're going to take a little walk.
Okay.
Arthur is now well versed in doing that. He and Jeff have developed a routine.
And then after we like to talk a little bit, we usually like to go on these walks with the dog. I think it's very important that that we go on these walks especially for physical health, and it's also a good way to interact with the neighbors. It's very friendly.
Hello.
And then once we finish walking, we come back, and then usually this time I have my bag of goodies where we have like all sorts of brain teasers, puzzles, and then usually after that we continue to talk. Sometimes we like to watch TV and just really calm ourselves down, especially after like a long walk. We just settle down after that.
The gift of time well spent Arthur brings to Jeff is given to Barbara as well.
It gives me the opportunity to do whatever I wanted so that I can go up and use my computer with more in a relaxed way rather than having a constant companion. I feel confident that I can go ahead and not put my consciousness can go away from being protective or concerned, whatever you want to call it, and I can do something else to become, that I needed to do.
But the gift of Arthur's visits doesn't stop there. They are also a gift this 16-year-old gives himself.
With all the other stresses that like academics, sports, and other activities, this environment of taking care of someone and like interact with them is very calming for me.
For those of us of a certain age, the words of our 40th president ring true when thinking about this special teenager. When Ronald Reagan shared his diagnosis of Alzheimer's in 1994, he wrote, "In opening our hearts, we hope this might promote greater awareness of this condition. Perhaps it will encourage a clearer understanding of the individuals and families who are affected by it." It's safe to say that, without even being aware of Reagan's words, Arthur Wang is living them out. John Carroll, KPBS News.
An Escondido sanctuary has been taking on endangered and sick reptiles, but the high costs are stacking up. Now, as KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne tells us, they're facing eviction.
Over 400 reptiles call the Escondido Ecovivarium home. There you can find snakes, skinks, dragons, and tarantulas. But one of the biggest draws is Ed, a giant 24-year-old Galapagos tortoise. Deering English was looking for something to do with her grandkids when she found the sanctuary.
They've been to SeaWorld, they've been to the zoo. We wanted something different, and we found this just by happenstance, and it's, sorry. We're taking off. It's way better than the zoo. It's way better than SeaWorld. It's the best thing I think we've ever done in San Diego, and I would recommend everybody to come. Whether you're old or young, it's fascinating.
Visitors can visit and interact with the reptiles.
I thought it was amazing. It was a really cool experience that a lot of people would enjoy.
What was your favorite part?
Probably sitting on the turtle. I mean, it's not like you could do that every day.
But the Ecovivarium is at risk of extinction. The costs to take care of the animals, rent, electricity, and staff are stacking up.
This year has been really tough, for everybody. I mean, let's face it, the economy has been really brutal.
Susan Nowicki is the nonprofit's founder.
We're supported by families, both visiting the museum and by making regular monthly donations of $20 to $100 a month. And for those families that were hit really hard by the prices going through the roof on food and basic necessities, they had to stop their donations.
She says mom and pop businesses have also stopped donating, and larger grants have dried up. The sanctuary is now 3 months behind on rent and facing eviction.
We're really asking for the public support right now. We need it desperately because our animals are unique. Not many places want to take on a snake with a broken back that needs assistance in going to the bathroom sometimes. Not everybody wants to take on a three-legged dragon that needs special help and special care, or animals with metabolic bone disease and everything. We're one of the largest reptile sanctuaries in the country, and there aren't a lot of options.
And if the options don't grow, Nowicki fears what will happen to the 400 reptiles in their care.
We don't want to have to think, the worst case scenario. Somebody asked me, what would that be? And that is potentially euthanasia. And do we want to have that happen? No. And I would fight with my last breath to prevent it. But that is the worst possible scenario for us.
Nowicki hopes visits and donations will increase to sustain the ecovivarium and their work, which requires daily care.
And they have value, not just to us, but to the environment and to the world and to our children.
The ecovivarium is also accepting volunteers to help take care of the animals or do maintenance work on the building. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
San Diego County is crisscrossed with interstate freeways that more or less get us where we're trying to go. We know them by their numbers, like Interstate 5 or Interstate 8, but have you ever wondered why they're numbered that way? Ken Kramer has some answers in this story about San Diego.
5 o'clock, USA.
It was the mid-1950s, and in San Diego and all around the country, there was a major push to ease traffic congestion.
By 1956, there were more than 65 million cars on our roads, with 90 million forecast by 1975.
Companies like General Motors and Portland Cement lobbied Congress and the public, saying we need a better system.
Spacious roads of divided lanes where free-flowing traffic can save time, tires, gas, as well as lives.
A multi-billion-dollar network of freeways, faster and more modern than the highways we had come to know. The new interstates would have their own numbers, but like other highways, they'd still be odd numbers for north and south, and even for east and west. Came the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, and construction of the interstate system began, and with it, some myths. Like every few miles, there must be straight segments without curves that are long enough to land military aircraft on. I always heard that. It isn't so, and never was. But a lot of what is true has to do with funding.
And an example would be the 15 freeway. A portion of that freeway north of the 8 is federally funded, and that is Interstate 15. South of the 8 is not federally funded, and that is State Route 15.
Steve Welburn is with Caltrans in San Diego. See what he's talking about? Look at the sign. Going north, it has that red, white, and blue interstate symbol. Southbound, it's the state highway sign. Here's the 805, it's what we call it, right? The 805. More about that "the" thing in a minute. But you know, the 805 is named for Jacob Decima, considered by both fans and critics to be the father of San Diego's freeway system. Where Adams Avenue crosses over, that bridge is named for contractor and freeway builder Roscoe Hazard. And where the 805 crosses over Mission Valley, that interchange in the big span is named for former California State Senator Jack Schrade. The 805 runs from near the border to Sorrento Valley, fully contained within San Diego County.
The 805 is specific only to San Diego. In fact, when it opened in the 70s, they allowed a bike day on the bridge. Kids from all over the city came and rode their bikes, found some very steep inclines going down into the bridge. There were a few injuries here and there.
Well, and so why, you might wonder, do we call the 805 an interstate? Doesn't go through any other state. Gotta be a mistake, right?
No, whether it's named an interstate freeway freeway or a state route has to do with the way that it's federally funded, not whether it goes from state to state. One example would be the interstate in Hawaii. It's federally funded, but it doesn't go to any other state.
And finally, remember that the way of speaking? How we call this the 805 or this the 8? It seems to be something that's kind of a regional habit, Steve says.
I am from San Diego originally, and I've always said the 805, the 5. I did spend time in Northern California. They do not say it. They simply say 5, 508. It's definitely special to this region.
So the next time you're traveling on, you know, the 805, that's a little something in passing about San Diego.
Very interesting. And Ken Kramer, by the way, has a half hour of stories every week about San Diego, and you can see them Thursday nights at 8 o'clock right here on KPBS. The San Diego Humane Society helped evacuate nearly a dozen dogs from the devastating wildfires in LA just last night. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen says they are here in Oceanside now and are looking for a new home.
With pleading eyes and pouting faces, these dogs are looking for a good home.
This is Kaya.
Like Kaya here, they were evacuated from the Pasadena Humane Society because of the wildfires in Los Angeles.
All of this is in an effort to clear space at their shelter.
The Pasadena Humane Society has seen hundreds of animals come in as a result of their families losing their homes to the fires. Jordan Fry with the San Diego Humane Society says they are doing their part to help out.
We're really grateful to be able to help in an emergency, just as we know our animal welfare partners in California and beyond would help us as well. We know that San Diego is no stranger to wildfires and emergencies as well.
So when the Humane Society received the call yesterday, staff loaded up the vans to pick up these 11 dogs. And one even needed a little help getting into the van. But they are running out of room. The Humane Society is over capacity and more dogs are coming, but they're asking for your help fostering and adopting these lovable pups.
If families aren't ready to make a permanent commitment to adopting a dog right now, fostering is a great way to get involved. Even if you've never done it before, we're going to send you home with food, supplies, everything you need to make that dog comfortable and happy at home.
The Humane Society is picking up another 30 dogs from Pasadena today, so they really need people to help foster these dogs. Just go to sdhumane.org/foster to sign up. With San Diego still under a red flag warning and Santa Ana winds forecasted to pick up later tonight, Fry says to take this time to prepare as well.
Now is the time to make sure that you have an emergency kit for your pet, including food, medication, treats, 2 weeks worth of supplies ready to go just in case.
In the meantime, Princess here is looking for a family to love. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Well, Santa Ana winds, we've seen them weaken a little bit. The peak was really yesterday and into this morning, but we are going to continue to see some gusty winds over the next couple of days, which means that we have wind and red flag warnings in effect. I'll show you those in just a minute, but ultimately, you know the drill. This boils down to a high fire risk because of how low the humidity is, how dry it is, then plus these winds. So here's a look at that high wind warning that we have in effect. This is through Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. is when that is set to expire. And then we have the red flag warnings. Those are in effect until 6 p.m. Friday. That's when we're going to start to see the winds finally die down enough that the fire risk will lower. It won't be quite as elevated. So keep this in mind, especially considering all of the fires that we're seeing up a little bit further north around LA. So here's a look at what we are expecting with the Santa Ana winds. So still 30 to 50 mile per hour gusts through tomorrow morning for all the areas highlighted in purple here. And then we get a little bit of a break, but here's a look at Monday and Tuesday. We see these winds return back to 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts for everywhere highlighted in that purple. All right, let's talk temperatures now. Dropping down tonight to 38 in Oceanside, 49 for San Diego, 35 for Mount Laguna. Tomorrow, we're warming up to the 70s. You see the wind icon there. For some of us, we're still dealing with that wind. A lot of sunny skies, though. 70 degrees for Oceanside and San Diego. Let's take a look at what to expect for the next couple of days. Your 5-day outlook for the coast here. 70 for your Friday. We bounce around a little bit, but we end up back at 76 by the time we get to Tuesday. A little bit of a warming trend there. Taking a look at your 5-day outlook inland, we're seeing 73 for your Friday. Again, temperatures bounce around a little bit, but we end up right about where we started at 74 by the time we get to Tuesday. For the mountains, we're in the 40s, dropping down to the 30s for Sunday and Monday, then back up to 50 by the time we get to Tuesday. For the desert, we're in the 60s and the 70s, just like everybody else, bouncing around a little bit from 67 to your Friday. And then by the time we get to Tuesday, we are up in the upper 60s. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
And here's another look at today's top stories. Fire crews are making progress slowing major wildfires in Los Angeles, but the fight is far from over. Around 180,000 people have been forced to evacuate. The Palisades and Eaton fires, the two largest, have burned more than 30,000 acres combined. Thousands of homes and businesses have burned, with AccuWeather estimating the total damage at up to $150 billion. And firefighters in San Diego County are on high alert. CAL FIRE Captain Robert Johnson says they've canceled all days off to increase staffing during this red flag warning. Johnson encourages residents to call 911 if they see a brush fire and provide detailed information, including location, what is burning, and if lives are in danger. And we're following the latest on the fires in Los Angeles and monitoring the weather conditions in San Diego County. You can find updates on our website, kpbs.org. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will have the latest on the Los Angeles wildfires, including the story of neighbors helping neighbors. And KPBS Roundtable is discussing the wildfire season, new laws, and the Padres. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.